So this is a Magswitch Magjig 150 switchable magnet. And I believe that these magnets are some of the most useful and versatile jig hardware that you can have in any workshop. Well, I love them and I've used them in numerous jigs. They have a couple limitations which I will address later on in this video, and I will give you solutions to those limitations. So why are these magnets so special? Well, first, they're a very strong magnet that completely turns off when the switch is turned off. And then when you hit that switch, they become very magnetic. And these here have 150 pounds of pull on any ferrous surface. So if you want to hook a jig to your table saw, to your bandsaw, to your joiner, to your drill press, these work fantastic because you just put a magnet in a board, you make your fixture, you drill a hole, you drop this onto your machine, turn the switch, it's hooked down extremely strong. It's not going to move. So they're very versatile in that they can be used on a bunch of machines, and the jigs can be made very quickly because all you do is you make your jig, and then you just drill a hole or make a mortise for this post. And then if you want to move the magnet to another jig, so you don't have to have 20 magnets, you just take your magnets and you unscrew a couple screws, you can move it to the next jig, and then you can use that jig. So they're very versatile in that regard. And I have used them many times. Just an example, a couple weeks ago, I was reading an old Shop Notes magazine, and they had this plan for a bandsaw pattern following jig. Basically, your blade of your bandsaw rides between these two in this little groove here. Then you can put hook a template to a board, and you can actually bandsaw out a shape. You can do multiple shapes like that. But the template in the magazine or the jig in the magazine had you hooking this down with 2 C-clamps, which is completely awkward. So took the same plan, just made it so that it accepted these Magjig 150s, and then I was able to put a couple magnets in here. Then I could just put it up to my bandsaw and I could turn it on and use it. And then when I'm done, I just turn the magnets off, put the jig in the drawer. Very nice. Another example was just a few days ago, I had to run a stop dado on my table saw, and I already had this jig made, and I thought, well, I could have made a clamp and gone through all kinds of convolutions to get the something clamped to my table saw, but I took this jig here, stuck 2 magnets in it, and then I was able to take it and stick it to my table saw, and I had it stop set up in just seconds. Then when I was done, pulled it off, put it away. So it's fantastic, the uses that you can find. So I have a couple of them in my shop. I actually have 4 because there's been times where I need them. But I think that if you were to have 2 of these in your shop, you would find uses for them. And when you would find uses for these magnets, I think they would save you time and actually increase your efficiency and also increase the quality of your product. So limitations. One limitation of these is that they require you to have a 3/4 inch material. So all these jigs back here, I had to use solid wood and plane it down to 3/4 to use it. But there's times where I'd really like to be able to use the cheaper home center plywood. And and we all know that the cheaper home center plywood is always undersized. Like this piece here is 723, so it's 25 thousandths less than 3/4. So I really can't use it because if the material's too thick, then the magnet won't touch and it won't grab. And if the material's too thin, like this one here, then the magnet sticks proud and the jig's going to be lifted up, which is a problem. The next limitation is that you do have to drill a hole. You have to drill a hole, and the hole has to be a specific size. This requires a 40 millimeter bit, which most people don't have. I mean, I didn't, so I went out and bought several different bits to find one that worked best. I bought a Fay-Mag, I bought a Colton wrist, I bought a Fish. I drilled all those holes, none of them worked with this. They were all too tight. I had to actually sand out the holes with a drum sander to get the magnet to slip in the hole. So then I had to buy a specific Magswitch 40 millimeter Forstner bit, which worked. It was about 20 bucks, but I did find that when I would drill these holes, they kind of tore out the back. It was kind of rough on the back, even when I backed it up. So another limitation, you have to have a special bit, and the bit can be a little, tough on your wood. The other thing is, when you put these in, you have to screw them down, because otherwise when you turn the switch, they just spin. So that requires one more step. You got to put 2 screws in, got to put them in for every jig. You got to take those screws out to move your Magjig to another jig or fixture. And sometimes when I would drill the holes close to the edge, I would drill pile the hole, but when I put my screw in, the piece would split, and that was pretty annoying. So let's talk about ways to overcome those 2 limitations. So first, we made this kit. This kit comes with a template. So you can route a slot to fit that post exactly. And it also comes with shims. It comes with 10 shims, and each shim is 1/64 of an inch thick, or 16 thousandths of an inch thick. 16 thousandths. So if you have a piece of wood like this one here, and I want to short up to 3/4 exactly at 722, I can take a shim and I can put it in here. I can try one shim. Let's see what we got. I'm at 733. I'm going to put another shim in here. And I'm going to see what we got. And we are at 749. So now we brought this piece of wood up to exactly what we need it to be, or very close, to use these jigs. So that's the first thing that we did. The second thing that we made in this kit is a little template. And this template routes a mortise that exactly fits the post on the Magjig. So when you drop it in there, you can turn it on and it won't spin. And there's no need for screws. Another thing we did with this template is we put some lasered lines on here that exactly approximate the flange. So I can't tell you how many times I put a magnet, I've drilled a hole, I drop a magnet in and I realize, oh, I'm too close to the edge or hanging over the edge, like in this case here. So this little engraving that outlines the flange will let you know exactly where the magnet's going to fall. So that's really nice. Also on here are lines. So you can actually put a magnet exactly where you want it without having to measure it all, because it's a pain to have to measure like how much from the flange to the middle and do all this math. No more math, no math involved. You can just lay this on a piece and use these lines to set it up exactly where you want it, stick it down with two-sided tape, and then drill out the middle with a 1 1/8 inch Forstner bit, and then route the rest out with a pattern following bit, and you have a mortise that fits perfectly. So let me show you how this works in action. So I have a piece here, right here. I got the tape already on there. I want my magnet to be 1/4 inch from the side and 1/4 inch from the top. I'm not going to do any measuring. I'm just going to take my template and I'm going to set it on there. I'm going to use those lines to line it up. So now what I have is I'm setting it down. I'm dropping it down tight. Now I know that, see, I can see the outline of my flange on there. I know exactly where it's going to fall, and I can tell you it's going to be 1/4 inch from each side. Then I take my little dog bone, drop it in the hole, and that center hole in the dog bone I use to mark the center of my Forstner bit. So let's head over to the drill press and drill that out, and then we'll go to the router table and route it. So there we have the mortise after it's been routed out. One little tip is before you remove the template, make sure your magnet fits in there, because if you missed any spot in there, then your magnet won't fit and it's going to be hard for you to put your jig back on and to get that realigned. So now let's remove the jig. And let me show you a couple tricks on using these shims. These shims are thin. Let me see, I got to get some out of here. And you could use glue to put them down, but I think that would be a little messy. So I think on this one here, I got to measure it, see how many shims we need. I think we needed 2. Hold on. So I'm going to, yeah, we need 2 shims on here to get us to 748. So I'm just going to use a glue stick. That's actually the least messy way to do this. I just take a glue stick, rub it on here a little bit, and then I stick my shim down, and then I do it on another shim here, and I'll stick my shims down. Now I have my shims in place, and I can drop my magnet in there. Magnet should slip right over the shims. There you go. And the nice thing is the shims are a little smaller than the flange, so you don't see them at all. So there you have it. These Magjig 150s are a wonderful shop jig accessory to have in your shop. I think everybody should have a couple, but there's a couple limitations with the thickness of the wood and also with drilling a hole and finding a way so they don't spin and you don't have to use screws. That's where this little kit comes in handy, this acrylic template where you can route it out and some shims. I do find that The best pattern routing bit that I can use is the CMT one that I use in the router. It's a really nice bit. It's the best value I've seen in a bit ever. They're under 20 bucks. I'll put a link in the description below for that. Also, I'll put a link in the description for this two-sided tape, which I have found to be the best two-sided tape I've ever used. Also, if you want to get these magnets, if you go to our website, you can get these for 15% off if you buy more than one, and I can't imagine why anyone would need just one. So there you have it, Magjig 150s, limitations, and how you can overcome them.